What up, everybody? I was just telling my old chat. They're gone and dead now. We turned them off. Now we're turning you on. I was just telling chat. This channel is fucking dope. It's basically like a reaction channel. But it's these two characters, and they got these crazy fucking videos. It's just like a collection of conspiracy videos, and then they kind of just like chat about it between cuts. And with my multicast, I had to do that so I could change what category we were in on all of our all of our different platform choices here. My YouTube feed is not like yours. Fuck it. Oh, it's members only. Don't cut me off, Ted. Come on. That's actually the first channel I might go for. What?
Well, folks, the
I like this
future of
guy.
chess has finally arrived.
I doubt
When
it.
you see the uncompromising sacrificial insanity with which the world's strongest 14-year-old chess genius Yaz Ka'an or Dogmush is able to utterly obliterate chess goat Magnus Carlsen in
No
the
shit.
two incredible games that I am about to show you, you will have no choice but to agree that this powerful young prodigy will be world
Twice in a
champion
row?
within 10 years at most. Unless Faustino Oro is able to stop him. Checking in with our Prodigy Watch page, courtesy of chess.com, we can see that they are now both ranked at number 1, which merely indicates that they both have a higher FIDE rating for their age than
Holy
any other
shit.
player in history. So, seeing these two sit down to a world championship match at some point
Wow.
before AI finally destroys us all is something that I feel pretty comfortable
What up,
prognosticating.
Soup?
But anyway, this first game we're going to look at is from a series of 16 blitz encounters between Magnus Carlsen and Yaz Erdogmaj, played only a few days ago on chess.com. Let's get right into our game number 1. This one's going to melt your noggin right off. You're going to feel like an entitled Targaryen king wannabe by the time this game's over, if you
Targaryen.
know what I'm saying. There will be
I
sacrifices.
guess I'm not
there
nerdy
will
enough.
be insane variations that you would have never dreamed of. Yaz Erdogmaj is in control of the White Walkers, and he opens with E4.
Maybe we should play some chess.
Best by test, optimum by outcome, overrated by Robert. Magnus replies in the most nautical way possible, C6.
Okay. Magnus on
Comments
black.
if you know what I'm talking about. This is, of course, the dreaded Caro-Kann defense, supporting an unstoppable D5, though allowing White to immediately erect his big, beautiful billowing center with D4, the most popular move. But Yaz goes for the slightly less common knight to c3, and after d5 from Magnus, he plays the slightly unheard of queen to f3. And I know that is kind of like saying slightly pregnant, but this move is only played by about 5% of the 7% of master level players who play knight to c3 on move 2.
What?
So we're already getting into some pretty sparsely charted terrain here. There's a very good chance Magnus has never seen this position before, but I'm pretty sure he has a good idea of what's going to happen if he decides to take the bait by playing d4, attacking the knight on c3. And you might as well. That knight is not going anywhere, because here White has bishop to c4, threatening a big disaster on f7, which is not even worth winning a whole piece.
Fuck,
The
there's
engines
nowhere to
recommend
be. You're in my way.
f6, blocking the threat, e5, d takes c3, e takes f6, e takes
again, huh?
f6, and d takes c3, with a minuscule and probably ultimately insignificant advantage to White. Magnus didn't want to go this way though, and so in the game, he plays e6. Looks kind of sensible, he's blocking that diagonal, no scholarly mating for this young upstart. Maybe he's hoping to play d4 next, but e5 would have actually been much better. And then if White were to take on d5, you don't even recapture, you play knight to f6. And if White tries to lock in his extra pawn by taking on c6, then the knight recaptures, threatening to come into d4, hitting the queen, hitting c2, and Black has ample compensation. Magnus's move e6 is just a tad too passive, as it allows Yaz to play d4, setting up his ideal duo with a now non-trivial advantage, which after Magnus's next move, knight to f6, is about to become even less trivial. Better would have been to take on
press the
e4,
pawn.
compelling White to recapture with the queen, lest he drop the pawn on d4. Then knight to f6
You're
would
gonna
come
get
with tempo on
shoved,
the
dude.
queen, and Black's doing just fine. But here, after Yaz's
you couldn't get the-
e5, driving the
Yep,
knight
you're gonna get
backwards,
shoved.
and a very nice follow-up, queen to g3, putting pressure on g7,
Mm.
tying the dark squared bishop down to its defense, White has an advantage worth nearly 7/10 of a pawn, according to our almighty aquatic oracle. Magnus now hits the center with c5, a good move, and one that I always personally find quite annoying, especially when there's no c3 to back up the pawn on d4. It's not always super obvious how to react here, but Yaz has a very strong reply, maybe best, he just takes on c5. Magnus can only recapture with the knight, seeing that his bishop is
Yeah.
defending g7. But first he throws in knight to c6, hitting e5 a second time. Knight to f3 defends. Magnus takes on c5. And now comes bishop to e3 with the threat of bishop takes c5, followed by queen takes g7.
Oh, okay.
This move, of course, does not
Pulling
lose a
that
piece to
bishop out.
d4, forking knight and bishop, since white could just castle long, pinning the pawn to the queen, and then
Oh,
pick
that
it
would
up
be
on his
nasty.
next move.
Yeah, dude, a fucking
So we
queenside
have
castle
queen
would be
to a5,
devastating.
defending the knight, getting the queen active in the community.
I would
pinning
still
the knight on
castle
c3 to
queenside.
the king, and so threatening knight to e4.
Oh,
hitting
the
c3 a second
pin though.
time,
Yeah,
as
dude, you
well
got to
as the white
castle
queen.
queenside like now.
Yaz knows he can't have any of that. Good moves for white here include bishop to d2, just breaking the pin, or bishop to d3, preparing to capture that steed if and when it hops into e4. But Yaz decides to castle queenside.
Yeah, dude, that's what I would do. I would castle
Only
queenside too.
trouble
That's what I'm
is,
saying.
knight to e4, now played by Magnus, is still a good move. Since after knight takes e4 and d takes e4, Yaz must now deal with the attack on his f3 knight, meaning he is unable to deal with the attack on his a2 pawn, which after knight to d2 is picked up by the queen. So what's the plan here? To take the pawn on e4, allowing queen to a1 check, king to d2, and queen takes b2 with a hefty advantage for black? Heck no, Yaz has a much better move, and it's one that I have to believe he had foreseen when he made the decision to castle queenside. And that
Yeah, I know I did.
Knight to b3, just guarding against queen to a1.
Oh,
when the white king is remarkably safe, despite his lack of an a pawn and his inability to play king to b1, which is the more standard way to improve your king's safety after castling on the queen side. Now, I should clarify my use of the word safe when talking about the white king, because it does assume that after bishop to d7 played by Magnus, white will find one of the only two moves in this position that do not lead to his rapid demise. One of those moves
Magnus
being
is
queen
great
to f4,
like that, dude.
targeting e4 with pressure on f7. We're going to see how that's significant in just a moment. And the other move being the one that Yaz does end up playing in the game, although he doesn't play it right away, which is a mistake. He first plays a move that in this position is a blunder, bishop to b5. When after a6 from Magnus attacking that bishop, if Yaz were to capture on c6, then black could recapture with the bishop, defending e4 with a winning position. But Yaz now plays the move that he should have played instead of bishop to b5.
Knight.
It is a beautiful idea, but unfortunately, because he got the move order wrong, it doesn't quite work. Care to guess what the move is?
Knight forward to fucking...
What Yaz now plays? His rook takes bishop on d7.
Oh,
now, if this had been played a move earlier, then Magnus would have no choice but to recapture on d7 with his king. Then white could follow up with bishop to b5, and if a6 were then played, he could take the knight on c6 with a winning position, since there'd no longer be any bishop on d7 to make the recapture. Unfortunately for Yaz, in this position, Magnus does not need to recapture on d7 because he's able to take the bishop on b5 instead, which is what he now does, giving him the winning position. But before we look at that, let me just show you what can happen
not that bad, then
losing king takes d7, just so you can get an idea of the kind of position Yaz was hoping for. Now, if you can imagine that white's bishop were still on f1 and black's pawn were still on a7, as would be the case if the exchange sack of the rook had been played a move earlier like it should have been, then bishop to b5 could be met with something like rook to c8 with a roughly equal position according to the engine. We're not going to concern ourselves with that variation though, because all we really need to know to get a good sense of the danger black is in is what happens in this position after bishop takes c6 check, b takes c6, and queen to f4, hitting these here two pawns at the same time.
It's falling apart,
now, I
Magnus.
probably don't need to tell you why the queen infiltrating to f7 would be very bad for black. The only way to defend f7 is with the king, but now comes queen takes e4 with the threat of taking on c6 for king and rook.
Yikes.
C8 is the only reasonable defense.
Oh, dude, get off the defense.
D7 would fail very rapidly to rook to d1.
Oh my god, brutal.
Here, creating the surprisingly unstoppable threat of rook to d4 followed by rook to a4, trapping the black queen.
Oh
black has
man.
No satisfactory defense. All of the queen's squares are covered. If you try c5 to keep the rook out of d4, well then the white queen gets to come into b7 with a forced mate and another 4 moves at most.
Shit.
So a pretty incredible attacking sequence that Yaz was apparently able to conceive in some form or another all the way back when he decided to castle on the queen side. Now, did he have this specific variation all worked out, or was a lot of it based on intuition? Hard to say. Whatever the case may be, it is quite remarkable, despite the fact that in the game, he messed up the move order by playing bishop to b5 too soon, and so allowing Magnus to evade destruction with a takes b5, giving black the winning position. Now Magnus is threatening to capture the rook on d7, since after queen to f4 and queen
Knight
takes
forward
e4,
to
there
defend.
would no longer be
Oh, no,
any
you
threat of
can't bring the
queen
knight
takes
forward. It's
c6,
holding the
as the
fucking
line would
queen
depict
at
that.
back.
So Yaz needs to address the attack on his rook. One might be tempted to take the pawn on b7 here,
Yeah,
or
I
to
would
play
be.
rook to d1, just defending the rook, but both of these
I
moves
don't
would
like that.
fail to the same response by black. Pause the video if you want to try and spot it.
Okay, let me see.
Black's
Oh,
single
shut up,
move.
shut up! Okay, so fucking capturing here or moving over here, both open up a brutal response from black. I mean, I'm seeing bishop to fucking right about here to lock down this square. Then you compress the queen. Check. Knight takes. Rook forward. Checkmate. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing bishop right here.
Is bishop to b4.
Boom! I'm a fucking master of the
Moves
game.
beginning with queen to a1 check. And white has no good defense. A fact that I'll leave to you to fully verify if you want to, but I'll just mention a couple of relevant details. One is
That's
that
what I
moving
see,
the
man.
c-pawn to give the king a square.
Oh,
will
you
drop the
could
knight
block
on
it with the
b3,
pawn though.
And the other is that playing knight to d2, planning to block with the knight, will fail to bishop to c3, threatening mate on b2. And if you take the bishop, it's mate in 2 with queen to a3 check, king to b1, and queen to a1 check mate. So with that variation in mind, it's not hard to see why the move played in the game, rook to d6, was probably the best defensive try, just keeping that dark squared bishop's diagonal good and blocked. Now Magnus could immediately cash in here and grab the exchange with bishop takes rook on d6, but this would be a bit premature, leaving him with an attacked pawn on g7 and white with a dangerous passer on d6, which the engine is saying would actually be problematic enough to secure white the draw. So instead we have the much better move, a winning move, knight to a5, hitting that b3 knight a second time while threatening to come into c4. So knight takes e5 is pretty much forced.
Rook
Magnus
takes.
throws in a check with queen to a1.
Okay, yeah.
So that
Push him out. Now rook takes.
a5 comes
queen
with
takes.
another check.
Oh, forces the check. Capture. Yeah.
At which point Magnus fails to find his correct line.
I would take the rook
what
now.
He should do
I would
is
take
just
the
capture
rook.
The rook on
yeah.
d6.
Take the rook.
But we can't really fault him for not playing this, since after e takes d6, black only has one move that wins. And it's one that I really don't think anyone is ever going to find. Not in a blitz game anyway. In fact, if you just randomly pick a move for black here, then you'll probably have a much better shot at playing the right move than if you pick the move that you think looks best. Are you ready for this?
No, hold on. There's one move that can get black to win. I'm thinking we push this pawn one space. Just stop this crash from coming through. Let the fucking bishop do its work. Push this pawn up one.
The only winning move is b4. What in the name of all that is sacred and profane does this accomplish? Well,
what opens up your
takes
queen?
The pawn on g7, then you got queen to a6 with check. If the king moves to the d file, then you get to pick off the pawn on d6 with check. And if the king goes to e1, well, now the white rook is shut out of the game and can no longer go to d1 to provide important support to the passer on d6. Of course, white doesn't have to take on g7. He could just play rook to d1 straight away. But now we get to see the other purpose of this move b4, which is that it clears the way for queen to h5 check, the relevance of which can be seen after king to e1, king to d7, blocking the passer, when if white were to now take on g7, black can maintain his winning advantage.
Get the rook out of there,
due to the fact that the black
Why would you
queen is
sack the
defending
rook
the
like
pawn
that?
on f7 as well as the pawn on h7. So no queen takes f7 with check for white.
Yeah, but you can just
queen's
kill the
gotta
rook.
move,
Oh, he can't kill the
after
rook.
which
I got my
pawn
other
on
rook
g2
back
will
there.
fall. You could try queen to f6, threatening to come into e7, but after rook a to e8 defending, if white tries to defend his pawn by pushing it to g3, well, now we have e5, looking to play rook to e6 next with an attack on the white queen, who's running very short on squares. The pawn on d6 is going to be headed to the great beyond in short order, and black will be winning the game due to his material surplus. So not an easy variation to find.
No, not at all.
Maybe nearly impossible, even for Goatman Magnus, who in the game fails to maintain his winning advantage with the necessary rook takes rook on d6 followed by b4, or an immediate b4 would have also worked. and instead brings the game back into equilibrium with queen to b4, looking to check the white king from c4 instead, which after a very strong move from Yaz, rook h to d1, is what Magnus now proceeds to do. Yaz puts his king on e1, at which point Magnus should just grab the pawn on c2, with sufficient material compensation for his lack of development and vulnerable king to hold the draw. But he now finally succumbs to the urge to take out the rook on d6, which at this point is a horrific blunder.
Really?
Since after e takes d6, Magnus is facing the dual threat of both queen takes g7 and d7 check, followed by bishop to b6, supporting the final pawn push to promotion with a heavy stench of mate in the air. There's no queen to h5 with check to save black like in the previous variation, so what Magnus tries is a castling on the king side. It is the engine's top recommendation, and one that for a hot second just might look like a good way to answer both threats. Until you spot the move bishop to h6, threatening mate in 1 due to the pin on the
Yikes!
G6 is the only defense.
Oh, you should have done that a long time ago.
The rook on f8 here with a winning position, but he plays an even more decisive move, d7, threatening to take the rook and then promote the pawn. Now, putting a rook in front of the pawn would run into a big disaster after either queen to e5, threatening checkmate on g7, or queen to d6, depending on which rook is put in front of the pawn. So Magnus instead plays queen to b4 check, and after c3, he drops his queen back into e7 to give some critical defense to these dark squares. It's probably his best college try, but after queen to e5 threatening that mate in 1, and f6 blocking while attacking the white queen, because of the unfortunate placement of black's queen on e7, Yaz is now able to take the rook on f8 with a counterattack on said queen. Magnus takes the bishop on f8, seeing that he had nothing better. The pawn on b5 now falls, with b7 about to go next. Magnus could try to defend with rook to b8, but he decides he better get his rook in front of the passed pawn, just letting the b pawn go. Either way, he's utterly doomed, unless Yaz commits some miraculous blunder. Magnus's
the
rook
rook's
and queen
there
are now
too.
tied down
Brutal,
defense,
dude.
while
This
white
little
is free to march
14-year-old
two
fucked
additional
Magnus
queenside
up.
passers the board to finish
Bro.
so Magnus lashes out in desperation with e3, and after f takes e3,
that's a desperate play.
e3, probably hoping for some kind of perpetual check. But Yaz puts that baby right to bed with queen to b4, forcing the trade of queens due to the pin to the king. Of course, he will lose his pawn on d7 after queen takes b4, c takes b4, and king to e7. But Yaz has correctly concluded that he does still have the winning endgame after king to e2,
I think he could come out.
e4, f5, king to f3, h5, king to g3, a capturing of the pawn on d7, a trade of rooks, and king to h4, when it's all over but the crying, the burying, and the unsurprising revelation that
it's not that bad.
1 out of 8 siblings
it's
is
not that bad.
The entire inheritance. That's a true story.
It's not that bad.
Magnus heads over to the queen side.
Just go kill those fucking pawns.
Yaz does not go after the pawn on g6, as that would lose to f takes e4, but instead initiates the trade, and after g takes f5, he plays his only winning move in the position, king takes h5.
Now it looks pretty fucking evil.
Takes off towards the promised land, but Yaz is just in time to stop it with king to h4. We have f4, king to g4, king to d5, b5, king to d4 from Magnus, allowing Yaz to promote his b-pawn in order to support the advance of his e-pawn, which is now pushed to e3. So after b7, e2, and Yaz promotes, Magnus is also able to get himself a shiny new queen, but it's just a day late and 9.92 crone short, because here comes queen takes f4 check, giving Yaz the 3-pawn surplus, which after king to d5, queen to f3 check, and king to d6 is going to be very easy to convert, seeing that Magnus has allowed queen to g3 check, forcing the trade of queens.
That's the game right there, dude. That's
so
it.
What a
you can't recover from that. Holy shit.
Wow. Promising teenage chess mind on the planet. How a mere child is able to dream up an attack such as this in a game of Blitz is beyond my ability to fathom. But let's see if we can't quickly recover as we dive right into our game number 2. Now, I'm going to go through this one pretty quickly because it's really just all about a shocking sacrifice played by Yaz on move 17 that, while objectively unsound, is something that Magnus is not able to deal with. He ends up falling prey to a beautiful tactic and then resigns the game after only making 25 moves.
Damn.
So here we go. Yaz again has the white pieces and he opens with e4. We again have a French defense from Magnus, and after d4 and d5, Yaz steers the game into some relatively uncommon territory with e takes d5, e takes d5, and bishop to f4.
Strange.
I love the way he avoids the main lines. He really seems like a little mini Magnus in a lot of ways. We have bishop to d6, queen to d2, a check, a knight to e2, knight to d7, knight to c3 hitting d5, c6 defends. Yaz goes queenside with his king. Magnus puts his knight on f8, headed for greener pastures after rook to e1 with knight to g6, giving a little tickle to the bishop.
Yep.
We have an exchange on d6.
Going for it.
Pawn
Okay.
push to h4, threatening h5. Magnus puts a stop to that by playing h5 himself. Next is knight to g3, discovered check.
Ooh, nasty.
Bishop to e2, knight to f4, hitting the bishop, hitting g2.
Bro, this is intense.
Bishop to f3 defends. g6 controls f5, defends h5, probably in anticipation of rook to e5, now played by Yaz, threatening queen takes knight, which can now be met with knight to e6 without losing the pawn on h5. We have a doubling of the rooks
are deep.
on the
Yeah,
only
double stack
open
the
file,
rooks.
as one tends to do.
Sheesh.
Bishop to d7 from Magnus.
What a
Quite
cluster
possibly in
fucking
preparation
center,
for a
man.
queenside castling, but Yaz has decided that he's not going to let that happen, as he now plays a quite shocking move that forever prevents it. Pause the video if you'd like to try and guess what that move is.
He perpetually stops. An odd screen slice? What do you mean? The way I'm just chunked on top of this guy? Okay. He's gonna forever stop black from castling queenside with some psychotic fucking sacrifice. Let's see. Rook crash. Bishop take. Rook crash. Queen take. I don't know. That's too psychotic. I don't know. Bishop. I don't know. I can't find it.
The move is a sacrifice of an entire horse with knight g to e4. Magnus says, I don't believe you, and for good reason, since after his reply, d takes e4, black is the objectively winning side. But after the knight recaptures with an attack on black's queen, Magnus is going to have to be very careful, lest the tables turn very quickly. Which is not what happens in foosball, by the way. Sorry to any of you fans of Kendrick
Thanks for letting me know.
Lamar's
This is actually my first time
lyrics.
trying the vertical stream.
Magnus drops his queen back to c7. It is the best move. And now we get to see the point of the sacrifice, which is that Yaz is able to drop his pony into
you're probably
f6
on your phone,
with
huh?
check, forever depriving black the privilege of castling. Magnus puts his king on f8. He's defended very well thus far, but after queen to c3,
let me know if you're on your phone, Ruff, then I'll
move.
know I got a problem.
Pause the video and see if you can spot it. What black needs to play is rook to c8, defending the queen with the rook, and so preparing to meet d5.
I should.
C takes d5.
I should destroy some fucking
queen
AI.
takes c7 with rook takes c7.
Let's go against Stockfish.
Maintaining crucial defense of the attacked bishop on d7. What Magnus tries in the game, in response to queen to c3, is queen to d6. Looks pretty reasonable. He's getting out of the view of the white queen, but this is actually a terrible blunder, which Yaz proceeds to immediately punish by playing d5 anyway. And if you're good and brushed up on your tactics, you might already know why. What is the devastating threat that white has lurking in this position? Well, if you don't know, you're about to find out. Magnus takes the pawn on d5, seeing that his knight on e6 was hit and he had nothing better, but now comes the haymaker. Knight takes d7 check, queen takes d7, and rook takes d5, attacking the queen with a discovered attack on the undefended rook on h8. Magnus has nothing better than just grabbing the rook, but after queen takes h8 check, forcing the king to e7, and now queen takes rook on a8, Magnus is the exchange and a pawn down with a centralized king and no hope of survival. He puts his king on f6, unpinning his knight, whatever that's worth, maybe looking to tuck his king away on g7 next, but after rook to d1, attacking and pinning the knight on d5, Magnus has had his fill and decides to resign the game.
Jeez.
He could try to defend with knight e to c7, but then white can grab more material with queen takes b7, or just play queen to h8 check, driving the king towards the center, and it's basically, and in all other respects, pretty much over. So there you have it, a glimpse into the future of chess This kid is on fire. He doesn't seem to have any fear or respect for the great and powerful Magnus, as
No,
he
that's
shouldn't.
crazy,
Please
man.
feel free to share your thoughts on these two beautifully
That's actually
destructive attacking
crazy.
masterpieces constructed by the great Yaz Erdogmush. Leave a
Wow. You're on PC and your YouTube feed's fucked up? I have to check. No, I have to look. It's true. It's true. Oh, there's two different feeds. Basically, there's the phone version of the feed and the... Oh, look at that phone version. Doesn't have the fucking camera right. What was that? I got this. I got this. Portrait mode. Um... Heh. Whoops. Good luck getting that fit on this tiny little screen, bro. What? I can't see that shit, bro. Just go for it. Oh my god, that's so small. Good luck. Oh well. Yeah, basically there's two streams. There's one for the phone and one for the PC. You should see. Should be normal. I feel like playing chess. Let's see. Do I have an account? Maybe. Yeah, I know it does. A second. I haven't been on here in forever. Oops, I fucked up my email. God damn it. It's like my oldest password. Oh, I gotta get a new password now. It's been probably 10 years since I've been on chess.com. At least. Maybe more than that. Probably more than that. Got my reset link. Okay. What? What? I just reset it. There we go. Okay. What? To pay for this? All right, let's get our asses kicked. What am I even rated? Probably nothing. Is this a real person? Are you real? It is real. Hmm. lets him take it. Okay. Fucking weird, bro. What are you doing? This is weird. What is this pawn action, dude? Crazy. You crazy, dog. I'm getting smothered here, dude. That's wild. I don't know if I have time. He's gonna press me here. Mm. It's a discovered check there. This guy's stressing me out with this weird fucking setup. What is this? This is bizarre. Do I get away with that? Fuck cap. Discovered. He'll have to castle first. Discovered. He takes, I take, I lose. Okay. The Russian Blugen Gambit? Never seen it, man. I don't know. I think he's gonna get away with something here. I don't think so, pal. What's that do? That doesn't do shit. He really wants this fucking knight, man. Good thing I opened up this spot here. Can't have him. Feeling a little smothered by this guy, though. Very smothered. I haven't played in a hot minute. I'm ranked 1,000. It's probably pretty bad. Yeah, you better fall back, bitch. Get out of here. Get out of here. Maybe that was a mistake. Probably shouldn't have done that. But I do want a fianchetto here. I have an idea to crash through. It's a little slow. Especially with how much he's just really wanted this knight, man. Where are you going? Going home. Are you gonna just take here and think you get away with it? Think I won't crash through with my rook, buddy? You think this guy isn't gonna walk down your whole line? Do I capture with bishop or with knight? Knight opens up, boom, boom. That opens up. I think bishop to keep the pressure up on the... Oh, I'm forked, you fuck. You think that's fucking good, huh? The old smother attack. Kind of want this one. I'll sacrifice a rook. His only escape. Go right there with my knight. Take him. I don't like my pawn structure, but I like his king choked up right here down the gut. Think so, huh? Really? How about I just kill that little bitch? No more castling for you, bud. We'll see your fucking king center side. We'll catch you right around here, huh? You want to block with the bishop, probably. I'd block with bishop and castle out of there, buddy. That's your best move. There you go. Fuck this guy, though. You have to die. You have to die for what you've done. I need to get that knight out of the way so I can get the rook on that column. I'd like to kill here, too, just for funsies. Wipe that whole fucking stack. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Let's see. Now I can start crashing it, I think. Where do I go? Let's see. I take, knight take, bishop take, queen take. Pawn and bishop. For knight. Need him out of the way. Fuck it, let's live a little. I'm rusty. I haven't played in a while. This is a weird game, too, man. This is a very bizarre game. Cap with your queen, would you? Please? Okay. Knight takes. I've got a discover thing here. Let's see, rook takes. Queen ends up here. Got press with the pawn. Keep the pressure. What do I shove here? That's my king side, though. I don't want to fuck with that too bad. I need to get this knight in the game. Let's see, knight. What this rook crashing into? If I go there, he moves knight to here. No. Goes there. Attacks here and here. I can't go there. That's an exposed light on my queen, though, if I move this pawn. I think I'm going to risk the en passant. It's a little bit fucking crazy. It's a little bit crazy, dude. I might have just killed that knight. What did he capture? Did he capture something? Was that a capture? I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check. Okay. Gives me the opportunity to get this knight out of the way. I'd sack for that, I think. Heart's beating. I'm getting nervous, man. Want that cap? Let's see if I press. What do you get away with? Crash there, and then you come down on my backside. If I press here, pushes your queen to where he needs to stay on that knight. Come here, queen's got to fall back. Fucks up my pawn structure a little bit to do that. I don't really want that. Mm. My ideas are not working. I could attack the queen here. Do I keep the pressure on the bishop? Do I just occupy that column? I think I pressure the bishop. Oh, win would be worth 82. Damn. This is my first game back in years. Oh, shit, a loss would be worth fucking minus 93. Oh, man. I should have warmed up a little bit first. Those all fucking rank games here. What he takes knight. And that puts me in check. I capture back. Which opens up my queen line here. I think I have to take this. I can't allow him to get away with that. And then his fucking rook comes crashing down. Or if I pressure the queen, he just falls back. Right? He really wants to hold this column, but the rook does it for him. I'm trying to fucking think what I could get away with here. If I could get a little bit of pressure here, man. A hard time getting things activated. Maybe I kill the knight. Just sack the knight, push the queen offline. Doesn't really help me. I know what's coming next, fucking bitch. Might lose this. We'll see. Just seeing if I can do something better. All right. I have to. Now rook comes down for check. He doesn't come all the way to check. Interesting. He wants that bishop. Well, the bishop's defended, bud. It's getting a little hairy, man. I really just need the queen off of this so I can get this fucking sniper in here. Oh, I see checkmate. Oh, I can't lose this bishop, though. If he kills this bishop, it's okay. Okay. My heart's beating fast, man. I'm getting nervous. Forgot this game was for realsies, bro. Knight up. Strange. Oh shit. Okay, it doesn't actually work unless she crashes in on the night. Okay, let me think. Oh fuck. Okay, so I come here. Basically, I need this to just stay exactly as it is, which is pretty fucking risky. I'm thinking I push this here. It does open the discovered attack on the knight, but it opens up this line. If I can get my queen there, it's checkmate. Let's just go for it. Fuck it, dude. Maybe we get away with it. It's probably stupid. He probably sees it. He probably sees it. I don't know. This is a pretty long-looking checkmate. Yep, come there and game over. What? Oh, he's got me in check, you bitch. Okay, I block with the rook. And checkmate. You fuck! Come on, baby. You don't see it. You don't see it. You do not see my checkmate in one. You do not see my checkmate. You do not see my checkmate. Oh, he sees it. He's gonna block me there, you bitch. Oh, and I can't take. I can't fucking take. Bro, he sees it. Have to go here. Right? Quit dicking around with these fucking checks, dude. Let me fucking mate you. I know. You don't see it every day, Soup. It's a rare maneuver. What are you talking about? It's in the small print on the last page. I don't get my checkmate now. I have to get my queen in here and start fucking shit up. If he holds his knight here, I think I... Bro, you want to fucking stalemate me, brother? You want to stalemate? We can stalemate, brother. Do it again. I'll stalemate. You want perpetual check? Come on. It's my warm-up game. I'll take a fucking tie. Try something else. Go there again. See what happens, brother. He doesn't see it, bro. He doesn't see it. You gotta start thinking outside the box, dude. You gotta start thinking outside the box. Fuck you, man. What? I'm getting fucking smothered here, dude. What if I... Where do I go? What's my legal move? Block with the bishop? What's my legal move? Just to block with the rook? Is that my only legal move, is block with the fucking rook? Is this game over? Do I just get checkmated right here, bro? Bitch. Fuck. Bitch. Damn it. God damn it. I think my only illegal move is to block with the rook. I could go here. But then I lose the... Fuck. I could go here. I can't block with the rook. What happens? Shit. I know. I know. Now I lose the bishop, and then I lose checkmate. He's just crashing everything in on me. I just need one turn of tempo, and this game is fucking over! You better take it before I crush you, dude. You better take that fucking bishop right now. Sack your fucking rook. Get my pressure off. Unless you just want to keep playing this patty cake bullshit, dude. And checkmate. Yeah, bitch! I wasn't scared! I wasn't even scared, dude! You didn't even frighten me a little bit! I had you on the ropes, dude. Just fucking bam, bam, bam! Oh, what? Oh, I'm running. I'm boom, boom. Oh, you can't run there. Oh my God, it's falling apart. Wham, wham, crashing through. Kick down the door. The crowd goes wild. What a play! What a play! He didn't see it. It's been there for like 10 fucking moves. He just wouldn't let me pull it off. He thought I didn't see it. He thought I didn't know my own plan. All right, now let's learn a little bit. This was monstrous. I've never seen a guy open like this.
Around with a decisive mid-game checkmate attack.
Bro, you're goddamn right I did. Let's go through it together.
Strong players throughout history have played this move, including Gary Kasparov,
True.
Magnus Carlsen,
True.
and Bobby Fischer.
Questionable.
That fianchettoed bishop is putting pressure on the diagonal.
Yeah, you don't like that? I love fianchettoed bishops. Fianchettoed bishops are the best. Well, go.
They found a way to win material.
Yeah.
Your better option was to recapture and activate.
I wondered if I should have brought in the knight, dude. I wondered.
Attack a trapped rook.
Attack a trapped? He's not trapped.
They had a better way to capture a vulnerable rook.
Yeah. You should have taken this one. I'd capture with king.
This is the only good move. They blocked the check.
Was a great move. Yep. Then I take knight.
Pawns are your
You don't like this?
line of defense.
But I had to break through over here somehow. I had to break through. You like knight forward, huh? Everything was crashing down on me, though, dude.
You allowed the opponent to win material through a fork.
I opened this up specifically for the winning checkmate. I sacrificed. Where's the fork? You like queen over? That's such a defensive play, though. Fuck that shit. I'm going to win, baby. I'm looking at this.
Your opponent set up a fork, which will win material.
That was nasty. I mean, I knew it was coming. I had to block with the fucking rook and sacrifice the fucking knight if he wanted it.
You get a chance to checkmate the king.
Damn right I do.
A chance to win material through an eventual fork.
Yeah, he should have just killed this fucking bishop when he had the chance.
Always feels nice to win.
You're goddamn right it does, robot. Goddamn right it does. Whew. He didn't see that coming, bro. He didn't know. Look at this. He's up 10 points on me there at the end. He's up 10 points. He had mate in 13, mate in 8. Bro, like, nobody's going to find that shit. Mate in 1, baby. Didn't see that coming, did ya?
You get a chance
Massive blunder. I've been waiting for that chance. Waiting for that chance, dude. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. I'm rated 1130. How bad is chess rating? 1130. Finally hit 1100. Am I still a beginner? Yeah. Yeah, dude. Anyone more than 100 points below my rating is a beginner. Everyone more than 100 points over my rating has no life. I don't know about that. Really? Is it that bad? Is it really like that? Yeah, I'm thinking something like that. Subclasses of sub 2000. You're a beginner at sub 1200. Hey, we're getting there. If you're 200 rated, but you've been playing for years with hundreds of games under your belt, you're not a beginner. You're a casual. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a casual, okay? I love you, man. I love you, man. Thank you. Try StarCraft. Anyone not in the top 0.1% to be trash. Oh my god. I don't think so. Blitz rating is 620. I can't play yes. This is the average? Average player 623? Daily is 886? Am I a fucking chess god? Am I a chess god? I knew it. I knew it. As soon as I watched Searching for Bobby Fischer when I was 6 years old, I knew someday they would all know what I already knew. It's respectable. Yeah. $700, you're below average. At 1400, you're in the 95th percentile of players? Really? 1100's right in the middle of the pack. Really? No shit, huh? As an advanced beginner, I can't believe 95th percentile is 1400, dude. That's crazy. Really? Oh, that was scary. I don't know if I want to play again. I'm just gonna like sit that one away on a shelf and up my rating and walk away. Bro, can I message this guy? Is he playing? I don't know. Good game, bro. Can we go through this a little slower?
Delaying the battle for the center,
Yeah.
you turned a tough game around with a decisive
Damn
mid-game
right.
checkmate attack.
Oh, I see. It's him. Okay.
Strong play. You
Hey.
turned a strong. Delaying the battle for the center. B6 prepares to fianchetto the light squared bishop.
I love fianchettoing my bishops. It's my.
D4 takes full control of the center.
I see
and
that.
allows the dark squared bishop to develop. That fianchettoed bishop is putting pressure on the diagonal. They move the pawn to safety.
Mm-hmm.
Your best move was to prepare a bishop for development.
Oh, press this guy up and open the bishop line this way, but the pawns are already occupying all the available turf. Why? I wanted to fianchetto the. Well, I mean, dude, this lineup over here got fucking crazy fast, and I had this ridiculous idea because he was just so hungry for my knight, dude. This guy, he was like, I'm gonna kill that knight. I'm gonna kill that knight. I'm gonna kill that knight, and very soon that became, I'm gonna checkmate you. I'm gonna checkmate you. But he was so knight focused, I thought I might be able to get my fianchetto, get this pawn pressed, and then like break up this chain from the strong side rather than trying to get back to the weak pawn on the backside. Just fucking crash through it.
Their knight moves into the game.
Ooh.
You are bringing your knight into play, eyeing the central squares.
Yep, putting a little pressure there.
They made one of the top moves in this position.
Really? Yeah, this is where it started to get crazy. Like, how am I supposed to get in here and break this up?
This move opens the path for your bishop to enter the game.
Yep.
I like their choice.
A lot of pawn pressure over there, man.
Yes, this is the way.
Thank you. I know. Oh, now you like me opening up that bishop line. Why did I make this decision?
I like their choice.
What was I thinking here? Remember, I wanted to fianchetto, I know why. Because I figured he's going to shove this pawn to attack my knight because everything's about this knight. So I'm going to push this pawn up to give my knight an escape. That was my thought
Yes, this is
process
the way.
there.
They didn't find the right idea.
I could have... pressing with the pawn really doesn't do anything. What would you recommend I do?
You are threatening to tactically
Yeah,
win
yeah.
a pawn.
Tactically win a pawn. I was like, I fucked myself by pinning myself to the king, actually.
They slipped up a bit here. Not the worst move, but definitely not the best.
Yeah, there's the attack on the knight. But then I
Found
was
a
like,
safer
well, yeah, I
square
can
for your
go.
knight.
So I move this guy.
Precise move from your opponent.
I thought about a double step here and just offering a potential en passant here to open up my bishop line, but his bishop was still holding
This
turf.
isn't a mistake, but there was something better for you.
You do like that? Yeah, I thought about that shit,
Precise
dude.
move.
Yeah,
This isn't. Your opponent creates a pawn chain, making their structure more robust.
it was very robust.
You developed your bishop on the long diagonal.
Yep, and that was the idea, to press here and start crashing through the strong way. It was not going to be pretty. People were going to die.
You get a chance to move a knight to a more active position.
You want me to move my knight up to here? Why?
This moves your pawn to a safer square.
Yep, and it attacks.
They found a
He
way to win
caps.
material. Your better option was to recapture and activate a knight at the same time.
Your better option
You
really
allowed the
activate.
opponent to attack a trapped rook.
Oh, the rook is... I see. By doing that, he's going to come here, and the rook is trapped, which guarantees the fork.
They
If
found a
I
way to win
capture with the
material.
knight, and he comes here, I can still get one out of the way. He could capture... I mean, he's going to... It's still a... Well, no, yeah.
Your better option was to your opponent set up a fork, which will win material.
Guaranteed. I just decided to start sacrificing
You
stuff,
apply
dude.
pressure to your opponent's pawn chain.
I was like, okay, I'm going to lose a rook. Now's my chance. Let him crash into this back line. I already am starting to see this. Well, it wasn't really until after he castled when I started to see it, but the whole time I just wanted to break this thing apart. And I was like, okay, well, if you get a knight, I'm taking 3 pawns out of the
They had a
deal.
better way to capture a vulnerable rook.
And
Nice,
yep,
definitely
I'm
the right
still
move.
breaking through. And this is, oh, and I've got my queen here, and I'm seeing, like, I've got center crash. If I can just bust this thing up, I've got a center crash line here.
Their best option was to send a bishop into the game. You are now able to take an open file with a rook.
Rook cannot take an open file.
You had an opportunity to eventually win material by revealing a check and attacking a piece at the same time.
Yeah, why don't you like this? I check and I take. What are you talking about?
Their best option was to send a bishop into the game. You had an opportunity to eventually win material by revealing a check and attacking a piece.
It would rather have the It doesn't attack a piece, though, dude. This rook doesn't attack a piece. Just gets him safe. I don't know.
This is the only good move.
Yep.
They blocked the check from your queen.
Now I
You
take.
won a knight for free.
Damn right. Now it's looking to pressure this. Why? It's like a free give. Because he couldn't take if I could get something in here.
Your opponent's
Now he
castling to the
castles.
opposite side often leads to an exciting...
And this is when I started to see over in this zone that I could turn this crash around. I was feeling so much pressure over here,
You
man.
exchange pieces of equal value.
Finally crashed through that pawn line he'd set up. That little guy did so much work.
A clear recapture.
Let him go. Yeah, did his job.
Pawns are your king's first line of defense. Moving the,
You like knight up, huh? Knight into the fray. Oh my god, I missed that. Knight into the fray, and then a fork right here between bishop and queen.
Pawns are your king's first line of defense. Moving this one creates unnecessary risks.
It was an unnecessary risk. That's
Your
true.
opponent had only one good move there, and they missed it.
Yeah, it says you should have just taken the en passant. And he goes for, he checks me. And I block with the, what do I block? Do I move? Maybe I move.
This
No, I
blocks the
block
check
with the
from
knight.
bishop.
Yeah, block with the
Your
knight.
opponent had only... This blocks the check from the bishop, attacking your pawn chain.
Yep. Starting to get pretty ugly. I thought about taking here, but I was like, bro, if this double crash happens, if queen is leading this charge, I'm in deep shit. I'd rather just have him come over, do this, then his fucking rook is there. Or if he wants to bring the queen in, I'll have time to move the king up to here and have my rook was the first line of defense and my queen off the back line. Or my
Your
king
better
off the back
option
line.
was to increase a bishop's scope by moving it to a better square. You allowed the opponent to force an isolated pawn.
To force an isolated pawn. He's not isolated.
Now you have to isolate a pawn.
Oh, now I do. To recapture, I do have to isolate a pawn. Ah, interesting.
Now your
That's
better option was to increase a bishop's scope by moving it to a better square.
it's already
You allowed the
thinking,
opponent
hey,
to
when
force
this
an
exchange
isolated
happens,
pawn.
you're going to isolate a pawn.
Now you
Wow.
trade off equal material.
Okay.
They exchange pieces of equal value.
Yep. I
You
had
are
to take
threatening
back.
to win a knight by adding pressure to a pinned piece.
I am. Oh. Well, yeah, I've been trying to shoot this guy all game. Whoops.
You allowed the opponent to win material. They exchange pieces of. Your opponent pinned your bishop, limiting
Yes, he
its
did.
movement.
This is where shit got crazy. And this whole time I'm like, bro, checkmate's here, and I'm just like, just stay alive, bro, just stay alive.
Your best move was to increase a bishop's scope.
I got checkmate and won it.
Moving their threatened knight to safety.
Oh, I needed to move the pawn first. And that was, I debated. I was like, bro, everything's going to fall apart if I make this move, but I have to get him off the line. It's like my last ditch effort.
You allowed the opponent to win material through a fork.
Fuck the fork.
Your opponent set up a fork, which will win material.
I don't care about material. I care about winning.
You shield your king by blocking the check from the queen.
This got so sketchy.
This makes a passed pawn.
It's true.
You permitted the opponent to win a queen by overloading a defender.
It likes here. But if I go here, nobody's defending the bishop. Well, I guess the rook is. I go here. Bishop's still defended by rook. In my head, the king had to hold down both these guys.
They stopped your attack by interposing a piece to protect their pawn.
No, they put me in check.
You had a better way to evade the check from the
Really
opposing
wants
knight.
me here. I guess I just didn't I don't know why I wasn't calculating. Fucking, the king's like, I gotta hold both these guys.
They moved the knight to safety.
This is when I was like, fine, dude, you want a stalemate? Let's fucking do it.
Defender. Your opponent activates
Now he
their
brings in
last
more
piece,
ugly.
bringing all of their forces into play.
Ugly.
You step your king away from the checking bishop.
I was scared of this rook coming in.
You get a chance to checkmate the king.
And I
They miss the
took
knight.
it.
Always feels nice to win.
If I were him,
You step your king away from the checking bishop.
I think you just keep the pressure and put your fucking rook on the A8. Well, I mean, let's see. Put me there. Yeah, you check me here. Would that be checkmate? Oh my god, could he have checked? No. Then rook just takes, right? Yep, or bishop. Yeah.
You get a chance to checkmate the king.
Tough
Always
game,
feels
dude.
nice to win.
That was hard. That was really hard. Okay. GG's. Time is it? Stupid homebrew policy. All right, let's see. Let's see. I don't have that much installed right now. Let's see. Got Peak. Shadows of Doubt. I've actually been kind of wanting to play that one a little bit. The Ascent, Arena. Arena's kind of fun, man. It's actually a pretty good time. Pharaoh and Cleopatra's been kicking my butt. This is some old school Civ style game. It's super fun and satisfying, and the music is so good. Oh my god, the music is amazing. But this level's kicking my ass. Anything installed on Epic right now? I don't know. Games just haven't been feeling that good. Same with Star Wars. No. All right, I gotta watch this. I gotta watch this.
Imagine waking up in the morning
I love
and
this guy.
realizing
Decoy
you are the
voice.
#1 top trending topic, but not for one of your many brain-dead political takes, but for allegedly electrocuting your own dog. As
Ooh,
yesterday
not
on
good.
Hassan's stream, while talking about America's violence, this happened.
It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just fucking go, just stop.
Call the shot caller. It's not that fucking criminal, is it?
Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby. You're making her stressed. She just literally is so incredibly spoiled from my mom.
Later denying he shocked his dog.
And most spoiled dog on the planet. Is from when Kaya yelped. Yeah, she yelped because she clipped herself on something when she was getting off the bed.
Now, obviously, Twitter wasn't buying this narrative, as in slow motion, it didn't really seem like she clipped herself on anything. Or even XQC broke it down frame by
Boring. Oh, I love this guy, dude. We gotta do some of this shit. He's the best. Michael Segru. He's gone now, but awesome guy, man. Phenomenal teacher. Nailed it.
At the beginning of the second book of the Republic,
I love this guy, man.
the argument is resumed, and it's taken up and radicalized by Glaucon and Adeimantus. Glaucon and Adeimantus are the key interlocutors for Socrates because they're the upcoming talented, potentially virtuous youth of Athens, and he wants to educate them in political knowledge and in moral knowledge. And Socrates is held
I love this
off
guy. I'm gonna
by
grab a drink.
Glaucon and
I'll be right
Adeimantus.
back. I love
Glaucon
this
goes
guy,
first
man.
because Glaucon is most
This
brave
is
in
my
all things,
YouTube.
as it says at the beginning of book 2. And since he was associated with Socrates at the very beginning of the dialogue, it seems there's some sort of affinity between Socrates and Glaucon from the very outset. Now, Glaucon and Adeimantus are brothers, and they're both Plato's brothers. So he's writing his own family members and his talented, capable brothers into the dialogue, the most famous of the Platonic dialogues. So he immortalizes his own family, which has considerable status
I like this
within
guy, too.
Athens, and he shows or gives a microcosm of what a good education for a talented youth might be like. Well, Glaucon says to Socrates, after this...
It's like being able to go to Yale for
Socrates,
free.
Socrates, do you wish to persuade us, or really persuade us, or just seem to persuade us? Now, this difference between being and seeming is crucial to all the dialogues. In some ways, the source of philosophy is to be found in the distinction between the way things appear to be and the way they really are. This being and seeming distinction is very important to Socrates and to philosophy. It's not at all important to the sophists. Sophists say, well, look, I don't care whether I seem to persuade you or really persuade you. So long as you act as if I have persuaded you, it's nothing to me. So the difference between being and seeming is analogous to the difference between Socrates and philosophy and Thrasymachus and sophistry. So when Glaucon says, asks the loaded question, do you want to really persuade us or do you want to seem to persuade us? All of the philosophical points that Socrates makes to distinguish himself from the sophists are implied and brought into play there. So this being and seeming corresponds to the difference, for example, between words and definitions. You'll notice that no sophist in any of the dialogues ever spend any time defining any terms. Sophists thrive on ambiguity. Socrates, on the other hand, is going to move from words to definitions, from words or symbols to meanings.
Socrates
because
is so
he
cool.
thrives on the light. He thrives on real articulate knowledge, knowledge which is held together logically by a logos, right, an account or a reason. And Socrates, of course, rises to the challenge, a challenge which he set up by beating Thrasymachus badly, by offering bad arguments, by making the defense of justice look kind of wishy-washy. He has lured Thrasymachus, or lured Adeimantus and Glaucon into this argument. So that's why he gives, I think, fairly weak arguments against Thrasymachus. Glaucon says, if you really want to persuade us, rather than just seem to persuade us, we have to have a radicalized conception of justice, and I want you to prove that justice is good in and of itself, that justice is good as an end, not as a means. And to do this, he says, look, what we're going to have to do is look at what people say about justice and have you defend justice even in its most unattractive, or at least apparently unattractive form. Imagine, and he comes up with the theory, with the myth of Gyges here. Glaucon says, look, imagine what happened with Gyges' ancestor. Gyges was the king of Lydia. He says his ancestor was a shepherd for the king. One day the earth opened up, he went down, and going up and down is going to be very important in this book. Whenever you see anybody going up or going down in this book, underline it. So down the shepherd goes, shepherd and sheep. Think about Thrasymachus in the first book of the Republic, right, saying that, you know, the shepherd is interested not in the flock but in his own benefit. The shepherd goes down and he sees a big bronze horse. Within the bronze horse is a man larger than life size, and he's wearing a ring. Takes the ring off the shepherd, and he goes back up and he finds that when this ring is turned inside out, so that the collar is down rather than up, it makes him invisible. As a result of this invisibility, he goes and he kills the king. He becomes a regicide. He has sex with the king's wife, and he takes control of the state. Key point here is that by having the ring of, well, first of all, I mean, hollow horses play a very, very big role in Greek poetry, right? So it's a clear implied dig at Homer, right? I mean, it could have been a hollow anything. It's a hollow horse, and it's bronze. And in a little while, we'll find out what bronze means, too, right? It means emotion or appetite. And this man goes down.
Dude, it's so cool to live in a time where we can sit in on these kinds of lectures and just learn from home, man. You'd have to pay so much to sit in with these guys. Like, listen to a lot of like Alan Watts and Manly P. Hall, different scholars, biblical scholars, philosophers.
Order by committing adultery with the king's wife, killing the king, and taking control of the state. Bad education then leads to bad political results. All right, so foreshadowing some of the main themes of the Republic. The criticism of Homer is there. And this invisibility element means that what we're doing is essentially subtracting the body and looking just at the soul. Now, Glaucon says, think about this, Socrates. Suppose a just man and an unjust man were to get this ring of Gyges. The unjust man would clearly do all kinds of unjust things. He would kill the king, have sex with the king's wife, and do all the things that he wanted to do. The just man, let's face it, would do exactly the same thing, because people are just and good only because they lack the capacity to do real injustice. In other words, they're weak and feeble. And if people got the opportunity to do justice with impunity, no one would do justice. They would have a good time, and they would do all kinds of bad stuff. So what this would mean then, it radicalizes Thrasymachus' argument in the following sense. Thrasymachus says that justice is the advantage of the stronger. What Glaucon is essentially suggesting is that justice is the advantage of the weaker. What he says is that lots of weak people that were incapable of becoming real tyrants got together, and they said, you know, it's better for us to form something like a social contract so that we don't have to put up with having injustice done to us, and we'll give up on doing injustice to other people, because it hurts us more to have injustice done to us than it pleases us to do injustice to other people. And besides, we're kind of feeble, incapable, kind of pious people, so that's no good for us. The best we can do then, according to Glaucon, is create a social contract which limits injustice, even though everybody really knows that that's what's good for them and that's what they really want. So Glaucon is essentially making an argument that might be made by someone called, or by an immoralist. In other words, we only do justice conventionally by nature. If we could do, or we only do justice conventionally by nature, we would do injustice because that's naturally better for us. He is replicating a distinction that is common among the sophists of Greece at the time, the distinction between nomos and phusis. Nomos is political law, law in the sense of convention, law in the sense that you get speeding tickets. Phusis is natural law, law in the sense of the law of gravity, right? One is, the nomos is created by legislatures, it's created by human beings. It's a set of conventions. Nature has its own laws that are independent of those. Well, Socrates wants to collapse that distinction. That's going to be a big part of the Republic. But for now, in Glaucon's radicalization of the argument for injustice, he's doing the opposite. He's saying, no, look, by nature, people want to be unjust, and that's good for them because it makes them happy. It gratifies their desires. But they invent these conventions to prevent themselves from being taken
Pretty
advantage
good
of.
argument, actually. Like,
Now,
man,
the
if you're
brother,
honest with
Adeimantus,
yourself.
chimes in and says, before you go anywhere, Socrates, let me explain to you that it's going to get even worse than this. Men, when they tell their sons that they must be just, they always tell them, look, you should be just because of what it gets you. If you have a reputation for being a just man, you can get elected to office. You can be made general of an army. You can rise high in the estimation of your neighbors. But they always praise justice, not because it's good intrinsically, but rather because it's good for what it gets you. It's good because of the reputation you get. And also, of course, they praise justice because the gods like justice and there'll be divine retribution in the afterlife. Now, Adeimantus says, stop and think about this for a second, all right? Adeimantus says, look, people make mistakes. So if you're really smart at being unjust, what you would do is seem just and seem good and seem virtuous and then be as bad as you possibly can. This is the argument that Machiavelli makes if you stop and think about it. Right? I mean, you should get away with whatever you can, but you should look like you're a real good, virtuous person. If you do that, then you have the best of both worlds, because then you get to be unjust, and in addition, you get the reputation for justice, so you get all the good things that come to a man who's reputed just.
Fucking politics
And
right there,
Adeimantus
man.
says, in addition, even though the gods don't make that kind of mistake, they're not interested in reputation, they can be bought. Remember what Cephalus did by giving sacrifices? Well, suppose you become a tyrant or you do all kinds of injustice and you accumulate a tremendous amount of money and you take control of various holy places and you can perform the appropriate rites. In other words, you give the gods a percentage. Right? And if you buy the gods off, you perform the right number of sacrifices, they'll be willing to forego their wrath. There'll be no divine retribution. So if a really unjust man were to be wise in his injustice, and he were to get the reputation among men for being very virtuous, and in addition he were to buy the gods off, he's all set. That shows you that injustice really is better. So now they radicalize the argument together. They say, look, or Glaucon says, there are three kinds of good. There are things that are good in and of themselves, like health for the body. That's just a good thing for itself. There are things that are good for what they get you, like
money.
Oh, I don't know, like wealth. Wealth, if you have it, you can exchange for other things, and that's good for what it will get you. And there are other things that are good both for themselves and for what they get you. And that kind of thing of good that's both a means and an end, that's the kind of thing that we would like to see that we would like to see as our third kind of justice. Now, take away all reputation, take away all the things you get from justice, show us that justice is good in and of itself, that justice is to the soul what health is to the body. Right, it's a hard argument. In addition, let's take the radical proposal there. Suppose a good man, as the opposite of what Adeimantus was saying, a good man is reputed to be unjust, and people think him bad, and they confiscate all his property, and he's whipped and burned and killed and has terrible things done to him. Show us that that life of the virtuous man who is reputed to be unjust and who has terrible things done to him, show us that that's a happier life than the unjust man that gets away with it. A very difficult problem. I mean, it looks like Socrates has been dug into a very deep hole here. In other words, he has to show that justice and the virtue of the soul is good independent of all other extraneous features. And even if it gets what it doesn't deserve, even if it gets the wrong reputation among men. And think about the fact that Socrates is going to be an extremely just man who has a reputation that's the opposite of what it truly ought to be. And the result is that he is killed by ignorant, unjust men. This is not just an intellectual exercise. This is gesturing back at the trial and death of Socrates. Right? He's the unjust man he's the just man reputed to be unjust that gets the consequences of the ignorance of the people around him. So Socrates is stuck. I mean, he says, well, I mean, I'm just overwhelmed by the magnitude of your task. Now, in some ways, it's quite proper that he should be. It's a very difficult argument. On the second hand, though, it's also true that Socrates has been waiting for this argument. He's been stepping back a little bit, waiting for these boys to come on to give him an argument and make the hardest possible play in defense of justice. So Socrates says, I have an idea. And he introduces one of the main metaphors or one of the main similes in the Republic. Suppose we don't look in an individual man, because it'll be hard to see justice or virtue of the soul if we look at an individual. Let's look at the city. Let's construct a city in speech.
Oh, the
And this
zeitgeist.
city in speech will show us the virtues of the individual man, magnified manyfold. And by seeing a large magnification of the virtue and vice of the soul and its weal and woe, we'll be able to find out what the status of justice is and whether it really is intrinsically good or not. So the Glaucon and Adeimantus, brave, virtuous young men, say, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's jump on it. So Adeimantus leads off in his discussion with Socrates. And for the rest of Book 2, they construct the minimum city based upon the idea of the division of labor, and it's called the city of utmost necessity. You get 5 or 6 or 10 men together who are exchanging the products of their labor. All right? One man, one job is established as the ideal because the division of labor, so that each man takes one job, means that each will be able to pursue one craft and pursue it well. You find that the jack of all trades is master of none. So we'll have a shoemaker, we'll have a cloth maker, we'll have a farmer, we'll have an iron worker. And what will happen is that this city of utmost necessity will be tolerably just, but will not have any luxuries, and will not have anything in the way of cultivation. In other words, there won't be any leisure left over for these people to develop things like civilization, like Greek culture. There won't be much in the way of poetry or statues or large public buildings. They'll live a sort of Arcadian, in a sort of Arcadian simplicity. Well, Glaucon steps into the argument at that point and says, look, this is not my kind of city. Glaucon is a brave kind of guy, and he likes to get a little bit extra. He has that heroic tendency, which could be very dangerous if he goes into political life without a thorough knowledge of political things, right? I mean, the most virtuous and noble nature with a bad education will turn out to be the worst sort of person. So Glaucon comes in and says, no, this is a city of pigs. This is not appropriate to human beings. These people that are going to live in this simple life, they're not going to have any of the nice things. No relishes, no couches, no lovely things. Well, Socrates says, you know, you're right. This city of utmost necessity, this sort of non-luxurious city, isn't going to satisfy most truly human desires. It'll only satisfy our animal instincts. So what will we have to add to have a more entertaining city? Well, we'll have to have things like luxurious food, and we'll have to have various kinds of imports and exports, and we're going to have a hustle and bustle of foreigners coming through, and trade relations and commerce. And of course, this means that we're going to have, first of all, more doctors, because luxury will lead to various kinds of physical maladies in the individuals. But the implication is always that anytime that the physical individual is sick, or that the soul of the individuals that make up a society are sick, you will have a soul-sick political order as well. So disorder in the individual body or soul means that there will be disorder in the collectivity. The city is like the man. So what we're going to get when we go beyond these moderate kind of minimal desires is we're going to have a great need for doctors, and there are various kinds of other luxurious trades will come in. There'll be, you know, cosmetics, and there'll be various kinds of beautiful poetry and various kinds of art, and also there'll be war. The source of war is in luxurious life. In other words, by trying to get more than you really need, by trying to accumulate what you don't really have a need for, what you merely desire, you're going to have to end up extending the borders of your society and taking what's not yours. So we're going to need a couple of new things in this improved, or at least more luxurious city, what Socrates calls the feverish city. This feverish city will need doctors to take care of it, but also it will doubtless need what doctors are to bodies. This city will need some sort of political official to take care of it, right? To have, you know, to cure the ills that are generated by that. And we will need some sort of soul doctor or political doctor. And that soul doctor or political doctor will end up being the philosopher king, one that can remedy these things by purging the city of the dangerous luxuries, by changing the dangerous organization of the soul of people making up this city. Well, they put together the feverish city, and now Socrates says, how are we going to get somebody to rule this city? In other words, they're going to need some sort of political order for it, and it can't be this Arcadian simplicity that we had in the city of pigs. The best thing that we're going to
My sister's so funny, dude.
noblemen
Notorious
that can,
last-minute
wield
schedule
weapons that
canceller.
are warriors
It's like
that will keep the laws and
95%
make sure that
chance
they're
whatever
enforced.
she
But the
plans
difficult
on
thing
is
this.
not going to
How are
happen.
we going to get these people not to be tyrannical? In other words, once they have control of the means of coercion, how is it that they're not just going to run the city for their own good? You don't want Thrasymachus and people like Thrasymachus given all the weapons in the city and allowed to dominate. They'll become tyrannical, and our happiness, which is a very dubious happiness, the happiness of luxury to begin with, will be made even more wretched. All the luxuries will go to them, and we will have a terrible factionalized city. Well, Glaucon doesn't know, and Socrates says, you know what? This reminds me of philosophical dogs. Now, this is one of the kind of inside jokes in the Republic. The idea of a philosophical dog is dopey. But it ties into a number of metaphors we've already used. Remember the distinction between the shepherd and the sheep? Well, what's in between the shepherd and the sheep is the sheepdog, works for the shepherd, but you wouldn't want the sheepdog to eat the sheep. All right, that comes back to the first book of the Republic. Well, Socrates says, well, here's a great thing about philosophical dogs, and clearly this is meant as broad humor. They like what they know. In other words, if a dog knows you, it doesn't matter if you're a good man or a bad man, so long as the dog knows you, he'll come up and lick your hand and it won't be a problem. But even if a virtuous stranger comes up, the dog barks. He doesn't like strangers. So what we want then in our guardians, in these people
Soup, I'm
that
gonna
will
need you to go
control
ahead
the
and play
laws,
some
control
Cyberpunk.
the politics of our city, we want them to know their own, to know the members of their city, to know the institutions of their city, and to love their city, and to be antagonistic to others. This will defend us from others, and this will allow us to exert our control over others because we're going to have to expand. Right? One of the results of this luxury is an expansionistic foreign policy. Well, they say, how shall we educate our warriors then in such a way as to make them like philosophical dogs, so that they love what they know, but on the other hand, are antagonistic to that which is external and foreign. In other words, this antagonism to the external and to the foreign is an antagonism towards change, towards things that are different. Plato, throughout this book, is going to be fighting a running battle against history. He says, stop the world, stop historical development, I want this to be frozen in time. Once Plato gets a good city, a good political order, well then any change is deterioration. So that means that once you get it right, if we manage to find out what the ideal good city is, then we have to completely arrest all changes. One of the most important mechanisms for the arresting of change is to create a warrior elite that is antagonistic to all innovation. Remember that in the ancient world, to call someone an innovator is generally speaking a put-down. You know, it's an accusation. Nowadays, in a kind of much more modern society that we have today, to call someone an innovator is praise. 25 centuries ago, it was not praise, it was an accusation. So what Plato wants to do is eliminate all innovation. He's going to get the job right the first time, figure out what the good society is, and that's capital T, the good society. And then once we do that, freeze all change. The way to do that is to make the rulers like philosophical dogs. They love their own. All right, and their own is the city. All right. Now, how will we educate these philosophical dogs? Well, two things minimally we'll have to give them. We'll have to give them a music education, and here I don't mean just playing the piano. What I mean is an education in the muses, in all the arts, poetry and literature and music and dance and things of that kind, because that softens the hard nature of our guardians, and that makes them harmonious. And harmonious souls are one of the key things for Plato, this harmonious connection between the various elements in the soul.
Plato's Republic is
And in
a
addition,
wild
you'll have to
read,
study
man.
gymnastics, because gymnastics makes the body tough and lean and vigorous and capable. And the point is that gymnastic training is to the body what music training is to the soul, not in the restricted sense, but in the enlarged sense of music. So Platonic education for these guardians will be addressed to the needs of the body and the needs of the soul using the muses and gymnastic. And the result will be superior creatures. In other words, people with good educations will have good bodies and good souls. They will look like those beautifully austere classical Greek statues. Have you ever seen any of those, even the Roman copies of them? They're just lovely. I mean, they're very moving, and there's a certain sort of ideal which you know that the sculptor had in his mind when he decided to cut that out of the rock. Well, Plato is doing something analogous. He is cutting an ideal, not out of rock, but out of words. But if you think about what the ideal guardian will look like, it will look like the gymnasts at the Olympics. They are just perfect bodies. In addition to that, much more important than that, is the fact that they will have analogous souls, souls that have been developed and exercised and trained so that they are the epitome, the high point of what human beings can possibly be, both in body and soul. This is, I think, one of the great achievements of Greek culture, this unity of body and soul. Now, in Plato, the body becomes something of a problem and it becomes somewhat superfluous, or not superfluous, but becomes less important than the mind. Right? It's kind of a change over from Homer. But this concern about the health or happiness, the good state of the soul and the body is crucial to this kind of an education. All right? So the guardians are going to be given the muses and gymnastics. Now, when we teach them the muses, what are we going to teach them? Well, the educator of Greece is Homer. And Plato one of the big targets of Book 3 of the Republic is the attack on Homer. Here's what's going on there. Plato knows that the most influential educational figure in Greek life is Homer, and almost all young men, because they're the only ones that get much in the way of an education, are taught Homer from their boyhood on, and they know a quote from Homer for just about every circumstance. The difficulty is that Homer gives immoral advice, and his heroes do immoral things. The wrath of Achilles is not the behavior of a good man, right? The lies of Odysseus suggest that Odysseus is a little too clever for his own good. They are constantly doing immoral things, and if they get away with it, Homer praises them. So the difficulty is that Homer has been influential, but his influence has been largely pernicious. Plato thinks that one of the greatest sources of political evil and moral evil in the Athens of his time is the fact that people have gotten a bad education from Homer. Plato intends to be the new Homer. He's going to be the new educator of Greece. And he's got a new ideal that he's going to set above the Homeric hero, and that's the Socratic hero, the hero of knowledge rather than the hero of slaughter. The whole point, a little later on, I'll get to this in a second, the whole point of subordinating the silver class, the class of heroic warriors who fight bravely in the interest of the city, subordinating them to the gold, is the revaluation of all values. They're demoting the Homeric hero from the top of the line of Greek heroes down to number 2. This will be heroism or warrior prowess under the guidance and direction of knowledge. That's what the difference between silver and bronze is all about. In other words, he's demoting the Homeric hero and offering Greece a new and higher and finer ideal. Socrates over Achilles. Socrates is the new Achilles. Socrates in the Apology directly compares himself to Achilles. Why? Well, first of all, because the only only poet that the audience is likely to know is Homer. And he's trying to get right in the audience's face by saying, well, look, I'm dressed in shabby stuff and I'm an old man and I haven't done very much in war lately. On the other hand, I'm a tremendously heroic individual. Would that you understood it. So Plato is making that argument again and again in the Republic, that the Homeric hero is a pre-literate, old-fashioned, evil hero that has a bad effect on our new literate, numerate culture. We have to have a new hero of knowledge, not slaughter. That's a heroism that has come and gone. So Plato intends to wrap up Greek culture, I mean, in the sense of creating new moral ideals. Nietzsche would really have liked this project. It's a revaluation of all values. Well, he gives a whole bunch of quotes from Homer in the beginning, and they're all references to Achilles, and what a wicked man Achilles is. Now, if Achilles is a wicked man, surely we can't use Homer, or at least an unadulterated, uncensored Homer, to teach our guardians. It will teach our guardians to do bad things. I don't want the guardians sulking in their tents if they have a slave girl taken away. I want them out here when they're told. If we are going to do that, the only way to do that will be to get the guardians a new set of poets. We will have our own poets to supersede Homer, or we'll give them the expurgated version of Homer, in which Homer tells people to do really nice things or really virtuous things. In other words, those times when Homer stumbles upon the moral truth, we will certainly make everyone learn Homer. Those parts of Homer in which the Homeric heroes do bad things, we will get rid of it. So we'll have the censorship of the poets. It is an anti-liberal, anti-modern idea. Plato was not trying to write legislation for the modern world. He was trying to write legislation for post-Peloponnesian War Athens that lost the Peloponnesian War largely because they overextended themselves, because they were full of hubris and pride and foolish stuff like that. One of the things that Plato most objects to in contemporary Athenian politics is the fact that we went and developed an empire which caused us to lose that war and caused us to get devastated, and we were trying to control other people. We couldn't even control ourselves. Plato wants to show us how to control ourselves, and after we control ourselves and organize our own souls, he wants the city that we participate in to be similarly organized. And then possibly we may extend if we feel a need or a necessity, but that's not our big goal. Our goal is self-control, not the control of others. We want to organize the internal reality, not the external reality. Soul comes first in Plato. You should keep that in mind. Now, at the end of Book 3, Socrates introduces the myth of metals, another anti-enlightenment idea. The myth of metals is also connected to the noble lie. Now, this is going to take some finessing, because Plato and Socrates are great friends of the truth. What makes a noble lie noble? You would think that lies would be evil, because they're not truthful. what can we do with the idea of the noble lie? Well, the noble lie is this. We're supposed to tell the people that we have given the various kinds of training. We train some people to be bronze and craftsmen. We train other people to be silver and defenders of the society. We're eventually also going to train one or a small group of people to be philosopher kings, to be professional knowers who are also going to run the society. How are we going to keep these three parts of the city separate, and how are we going to keep one from trying to move into the status of another? How are we going to prevent social mobility, in a sense? Well, Socrates wants to do it with a noble lie. He wants to do it by saying, look, you are all brothers and sisters. You all came from the earth. You're all born in the earth. And in the process of forming you, in some cases the god put in gold, which makes you philosopher kings. In other cases, the god put in silver, that makes you guardians, particularly the warriors or defenders. And everyone else is, in fact, bronze. And everyone should be satisfied with their lot, so it's a completely hierarchical society with just about nothing in the way of social mobility. If a child born of bronze or silver parents shows great promise, it can be moved up a notch, or a child of gold parents can be moved, or silver parents can be moved down a notch. But for the most part, it's a completely fixed, rigid, hierarchical society. And Plato thinks that not everyone has equal access to knowledge and reason. And for that reason, he doesn't adopt the kind of open society that would be advocated by someone like Karl Popper, but also any of the Enlightenment thinkers. He doesn't have that optimistic idea that, yeah, if you just give everybody education, everyone will understand what they should do, and they'll all be able to vote for good governments. Plato doesn't think that. He saw these, this early democracy kill Socrates. He saw this early democracy do all kinds of evil. He saw this early democracy make bad decisions and lose the Peloponnesian War and get themselves all killed and conquered. So he thinks that democracy is an intrinsically unstable polity. If you look at any of his treatments of the demos, think about the Euthydemus, when all the people of Athens that are listening to this heuristic dialogue are all clapping and saying that this is a great thing. Obviously, people that think that that's real reasoning are not going to be able to make wise political decisions. That's going to be in the hands of a tiny elite in Plato's ideal city. So what we're going to have here is careful censorship of epic poetry and also tragedy and comedy. Remember that Aristophanes gave Socrates a very bad name. It was one of the reasons that Socrates was condemned. All poetry will be censored and supervised by the guardians. They will decide what myths the people will get and what they won't get. The point being that this will give them a good education. Good education will result in good souls. Good souls result in an orderly life, and an orderly life means an orderly city. What we are trying to do is avoid the faction that we get based upon bad education and also based upon tremendous disparities in wealth. One of the most interesting facts about Plato's ideas in the third book is that the elite, for the first time, or perhaps for the first time in the history of the world, is going to be an ascetic elite. It's not necessarily that they're going to fast or starve, but the gold and silver, the small strata that actually run society, are not allowed to own any private property. They're not allowed to have their own families. They're not allowed to get married. They're not allowed to actually touch gold and silver. So they are going to be separated off. And that means, if you know Marx, that Plato's elite is going to extract the smallest possible amount of surplus value. In other words, the gold and the silver only get subsistence wages. And that means out of the gross national product or the gross civic product, the smallest possible slice of the pie is given to the people that actually have the political power, which means that the maximally large slice of the pie goes back to the people that actually produce it, the actual craftsmen and workers. What this means is that in the economic sense, not in the political sense, but in the economic sense, this is the least oppressive regime possible. Because every other regime, the ruling elite, takes out more than a minimum subsistence. And since everything comes from someplace, it has to come from the backs of the workers. Here, the bronze people, the craftsmen, the people that actually produce things, the farmers, are going to be the ones that get back the maximum possible return on their labor. So in that respect, strictly in the sense of the extraction of surplus value, it'll be the least oppressive of regimes. On the other hand, there'll be nothing in the way of political democracy. This is a regime that's clearly top-down in every case. Now, this is a very radical idea. This is truly the most radical set of political proposals in the history of the West. And Adeimantus at the beginning of Book 4 says, Socrates, look, you have the gold and the silver, and they get the smallest slice of the pie possible, elsewise, they would starve. they're never going to be happy. How are you
I
going to
love
make a
this
happy
guy, man.
ruling elite? Because Adamantus is
It's
interested
cool.
in joining the Athenian
It's like
ruling
sitting
elite,
in at
and he comes
Yale
from a
for
wealthy family, and
free.
he'd like to be happy. And he says, look, they're not going to be happy unless they have nice big houses and lots of food and nice things. I mean, you know, why can't they have any possessions? That doesn't make any sense. Socrates says no. The point of this
It
regime
is a little wild
is
they can't
not
get
the
married.
good of some subset. It's the good of the whole. He thinks of his ideal city as being a sort of organic unity. So we're not trying to make the hand happy or the head happy or the foot happy. We want the happiness of the entire body. And the way to do that is to have each element in society perform its function and not do anything else. This comes back to the idea of telos. Plato and Socrates are very much concerned with the idea of telos, which means purpose or function. Each element in society, the gold, the silver, and the bronze, is to perform its own function and not any other function. And if it performs that function, it will perform that function well. And if it leaves the other functions alone, something else will perform that function. This is what justice is, or at least one of the provisional definitions of justice. Each part of the society, like each part of the soul, performing that function which it is naturally suited to perform. So the bronze people will have the function of producing the necessities of life, and they will get back as much as possibly can, and they'll be kept in an orderly, safe city. The bronze part of the individual human soul, the part that has appetites and desires, the desire for food, the desire for clothing, the desire for warmth, the desire for sex, the desire for all the things that people want, that will correspond to that. You want, and the appropriate virtue to the bronze people in society, and the appropriate virtue to the human soul is moderation. You want to have some control or organization of your emotions, of your desires. You don't want to abolish them. We wouldn't be human if we lacked all human desire. But to be virtuous, both as individuals and as a city, we must organize our desiring parts. The silver
would you
part,
do that?
Plato calls the spirited. In
Oh,
the
welcome
city,
back,
that's going to
Lithor.
be
Hope you
the
got something
defenders,
good,
the
man.
actual warriors
Oh,
who
good.
raised
Dude,
for war
sometimes it's fun
from
to
the
go
very
out and
beginning.
get something
And this,
out.
in many respects, borrows the best elements
We've,
of Sparta
it's been a little
and
tight,
brings
so
them
we
into
don't do it
Athens.
too
Remember
often,
that
but every
Sparta
time
won
we
the
do, it's a nice
Peloponnesian
treat.
War. And for Plato to write
This guy's name's
so
Michael
many
Segru,
Spartan customs
and
into his ideal city
I
is a
love
real
listening
slap
to
in
his
the
lectures,
face
man.
to
A
his
philosopher,
contemporaries, 'cause they, look,
specializes in
the
Greek
reason that
philosophy.
Sparta overcame
Not
Athens in
just
the
though. I mean, he's
Peloponnesian
got
War,
Marx
partially
and
because they were more virtuous
Nietzsche
than their
and
institutions were better
Kierkegaard
conceived.
and
So many of the ideas that we're going to see in Sparta, like a common housing, common training table,
pretty much just a
this
professor of
community
philosophy and
property
phenomenal,
community
man.
of activity,
Phenomenal.
at least for the young and for the vigorous, for the warriors, derived directly from Sparta, and is the kind of thing that will not be accepted gladly among the Athenians. The final element in the city
Oh,
of the
cool.
soul is the gold element.
Are you seeing anything on with Sarah Payne? That gal Sarah Payne's been coming across my feed. I watch everything I see of her, man. She's such an intelligent historian. Listening to her talk is pretty cool. She knows her stuff.
Correspondence between the three parts of the soul and the three parts of the city, because the city is like
Yeah,
the
dude,
man.
Sarah Payne's
That's
great. I
similar
watch
to
her
the
all the
Roman King's
time.
Republic.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fascinating.
by the time we get to the end of book 4, we finished off the
Her perspective on things is
indication
like
of the
so
guardian,
zoomed
and we get
out.
to Platonic virtues, and this is the best statement of Plato's conception of the happy soul and the happy city. It turns out that justice is a combination of the wise, the courageous, and the moderate. You know, the three parts of the soul and the three virtues appropriate to those parts of the soul. And their harmonious interaction is what we mean by justice. So justice is a kind of harmony between the virtues of the three parts of the soul. Now go back when you read the Republic and note the fact that Adamantus is a very moderate, austere man, and his brother Glaucon is most brave in all things. Adamantus is the best of the desiring parts. He's the embodiment of moderation. Glaucon is the embodiment of courage. He's most brave in all things. He talks about swords in war all the time.
For sure. I mean, we
Socrates
all
is the
do.
embodiment of wisdom. And this
I don't know where
harmonious
she's from,
interaction in books
actually.
2,
I don't know
3,
her
4, and
roots.
5 of Glaucon, Adamantus, and Socrates is justice. In other words, it's the harmonious interaction of the wise, the courageous, the moderate, and the just. That doesn't exhaust the symbolism here by any means.
Oh, she's from the Naval
What we
War
get in the
College.
Republic is like sort of
Actually, I did know that.
multi-layered
Now that you say it,
symbolism
I do
where one
know
symbol
that.
piles upon another.
Yeah.
So, but at least within the confines of books
That'll,
2 through 5,
that'll put a couple
wisdom,
colors on your
courageous-
palette.
Wisdom, courage, moderation
Yeah.
is Socrates, Glaucon, and Adamantus, and their interaction is justice, which leads them to knowledge of justice. Right? There's quite a bit going on. It's a very busy set of books. Now,
No.
At the end of
Every time he does
book
it, like,
4,
what's good?
we've pretty much established the Platonic virtues, the wise, the courageous, the moderate, and the just. We figured out the parts of the soul, the parts of the city, and we found out that justice is to the soul as health is to the body. But now, a very curious thing happens. A very important passage is going to be found at the beginning of the 5th book. It's the only passage where Polemachus and Thrasymachus are brought back in, I mean, and only for a very brief piece, and Adeimantus steps in. What happens is this. Beginning of the 5th book, and I should emphasize that there were no books back then. They were all put on scrolls. Scholars broke this up into 10 books for their utility.
I miss having a
beginning of the
yard,
5th
man.
book,
Growing up, I didn't enjoy it, but
Polemachus
now it's like what I
says
wouldn't
something
give
whispers
to
into the
mow
ear
my
of
own
Adeimantus.
yard.
Adeimantus says, yeah, you know, I will.
Gosh,
Fine.
that sounds
Adeimantus
nice.
bravely steps forward. Now, this is out of character for Adeimantus. Adeimantus hasn't been interested in war and stuff like that. He's been a very moderate, restrained, kind of quiet figure, very austere. But he steps forward and bravely says, Socrates, I'm arresting you for a second time. It's a recapitulation of that first scene in the first book. He steps in and says, Socrates, don't go anywhere. We thought you were going to tell us about this strange business about the community of women and the abolition of the family and the abolition of private property and all this strange stuff that you're suggesting. And now you want to go right on to the degenerate regimes and now that you've given us the good regime, tell us about the bad one. No, 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 no. We insist that you stay, you stop right now, and you explain to us all this business about communism and about the abolition of private property and the abolition of the family and all this stuff that...
The abolition of the family is a wild take.
Well, Socrates says, I didn't want to get involved with this, which can be read ironically, but possibly also is true as well. He said, it's a very difficult thing you're asking me to do because I'm afraid of being overwhelmed by the waves of the argument. Well, Glaucon, who's most brave in all things, comes back and says, look, speak away. We won't hold anything against you. Come on, let's hear what you got. Well, this is, I guess, the most radical departures that we're going to get in the Republic, Book 5. He says there are 3 waves to the argument, and if you thought my argument was strange to begin with and hard to believe to begin with, it's going to get even harder to believe and even more peculiar. The first wave that Socrates has to face is feminism. Remember that we're talking about 25
Oh, this is
centuries
really
ago,
old, man.
and the
Wow.
status of women was, I mean, not even approximately or remotely
Yeah.
equal to that of men. They were kept secured away in
like
a
Bronze
women's
Age.
quarter within the households. They didn't engage in public life. They certainly didn't go to war. And Socrates is suggesting that men and women should get the same education. Now, if they get the same education, we can only assume that they're going to be performing the same sort of functions in society, and it appears that they are. Socrates, remember, is primarily interested in minds, not bodies. And
I like
women,
Socrates a
when they do
lot.
arithmetic or
I
geometry,
love
they
reading
get
the
same
old
answer that men do.
philosophers.
Well,
My
that means that
Audible
they
is
have the
just
divine
loaded
logos
with
in
philosophy
there.
stuff,
And of
man.
course, Plato is going to take that the whole way. He says, look, bodies are relatively accidental things, and God knows at the end of the book, at the myth of Ur, we're going to find out that people are going to get reincarnated anyway. Right? So naturally, he doesn't care what sort of genitalia a person is attached to. He cares about their mind, their psyche, their soul. This is a book about souls, the perfectibility of souls. Bodies don't interest him very much. So he's going to say men and women have to get the same education, and apart from strictly physical things, you know, like heavy lifting, they're going to have the same functions in society. Makes sense. Our dogs, both the male and the female, must be given the same job, guarding the sheep. And our dogs, in the bronze area or in the gold area, are going to have to get the same education appropriate to their status. And that way we can have eugenics and all that other kind of stuff. So the first wave of the argument is feminism, which is a completely radical idea. I mean, and it's the first of the
It's like,
great feminists.
oh, Brave New World, man.
Right? Why? Because he emphasizes mind over body. The second wave is communism. He's going to completely abolish the family, which is surely, I mean, even more radical than feminism.
That's
I mean,
what
the
I'm
family is
saying.
one of those lasting institutions that, however we modify it, I mean, it seems to be here to stay. He says, no. If we're going to have really the best people in the society, the guardians, particularly the philosopher kings, must create phony lots so that we have eugenic marriages, so that we have the best men and the best women reproduce, so that the next generation will be even superior to the generation that we have now. So we're going to have a gradual program of eugenics. And this eugenics program
really early.
carried on surreptitiously, and it will give people that much more of a
talking about
stimulus
that, man.
to do well, because it turns out that the people that behave
What's
well and
this?
perform well are the ones that we end up breeding. So they will live a very austere life, and the idea is this. Plato wants to break down the distinction between public good and private good. That's why he's abolishing the family.
Written in
and he is
375
creating family ties
BC,
and
dude.
family
Holy
relationships
shit.
across the city as a whole. In other words, all the members of the Guardian class, all the silver and all the gold, should view the whole city as being their own, their family, their particular private thing. So private and public good will be unified. And I don't know if it's been successful, this attempt to abolish
I don't
the
know if
family and
capitalism
create a
started
kind
in
of
year
general
zero.
cohesion within society. On the other hand, one of the
Been around for a
persistent
while,
problems
though.
that we get in modern liberal society is this conflict between the private good and the public good. Right? We haven't really resolved this. So I would be inclined to think this is an especially plausible way of resolving it, by abolishing the family, although people have tried that. The point is, though, that it remains a problem, and even if its solution is not satisfactory, to identify this conflict between public and private good as a basic political problem is, I think, a real advance here. Now, the third of these waves, and the last of the waves that Socrates deals with, and the waves are getting bigger all the time. I mean, feminism was a big wave. You can be washed away by that. Surely a very peculiar idea for, 400 BC or, 380 BC.
Yeah.
The abolition of the family, even more radical. But the final one is the practicality of the philosopher king. Here's the problem. Plato says, well, look, or Glaucon says, okay, I'm convinced that this is a great achievement, and that you've shown me something very important. I feel in some ways bad about this argument,
Especially in its modern form. I mean, forms of capital have always been used, but our modern
really made a mistake.
capitalist society is
really
pretty new phenomenon. It's a wild, wild thing, man.
That there's a sort of
Gotta get it to
resistance by
money.
the
Gotta get it to
physical
money.
world, tables and chairs, towards all of Platonic ideals and towards the perfect city that Plato suggests. And the philosopher king suggests to us that there's some sort of disjunction between theory and practice, that we can't quite realize in the world of space and time, the world of nature, the ideals that we would hope or that we would aspire towards. Now,
oh yeah, actually, yeah.
De
Monet?
kind of big problem attached to it. In other words, if our theory
Is that
can't be
where?
brought into
That's not where we
practice,
get the
that
root
gives us the
etymology
idea
of
that
money,
something
isn't it?
is drastically amiss, and that's true. According to Plato, the fact that we cannot realize the good regime, that we cannot realize the philosopher king, that we cannot create perfect justice in this world, shows us that
History of
something
the
is
World,
very
Part 1,
definitely
Mel
wrong
Brooks.
with this world.
Nice. Good one, Michael. Oh, this guy's so good. I love sitting in on his lectures. This guy's really good, too. 45 minutes, though. I gotta get my wife in 25. Well, we dominated the chess world. We learned from the AI that I can't sell this, which is devastating. I'll just have to give it away. But, man, what a way to take the wind out of the sails, to fucking spend hundreds of hours building something that you just have to hand out. It's kind of a bummer. It makes you want to not continue working on it. I think this might be one of my last tools, dude. I've been working so hard on it, really hoping that I could get away with something here, but just gotta rely on the goodwill of folk who receive for free, I suppose. I'm just a fucking juggler standing out there on the corner, throwing knives and begging for dimes. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to write this screenplay. This is what I need to be working on. Look at this. Look at that. Original screenplay with a treatise. Cap earnings at $341,000 to sell that bitch. I need to finish this I could sell. Sorry, Artelstorian Games, you don't own this. But I will say, right off the bat, I mean, this better not fucking fall under the homebrew policy or I'm going to sue somebody. I'm going to fucking sue somebody. I mean, unfortunately, this is the kind of thing that get me sued. But it's not. It's loosely based. What do you mean? No, it comes with the neat interface. The neat interface is built into it. It's all just there for the taking. I can't separate them. I mean, I've already given away, ooh, I see what you're saying. Ooh, that's a nasty little loophole, Mr. Lithadora. Because technically on my fucking Patreon, I already gave away all of these functions. I don't know, man. Could you spin it that way? Like, I already gave everything away for free. This is just to make it sexy in a one-in-one package. I don't know, man. Maybe? I'd have to talk to a lawyer about that. Maybe. The more I work, the longer this screen takes, too. But yeah, like, technically, I gave you this night market already. And I gave you this bodega. And I gave you this Vendit maker. And I gave you this scream sheet generator. It's not quite as sexy, but it's there. And I gave you this weather generator. It's not quite as sexy, but it's there. Then I gave you this hustle generator. It's not quite as sexy. It doesn't do all the functions, but it's there. Then I gave you this fate chart. I mean, what more do you want? You can roll it. It's right there. Or you could give me your money and you can have this with all of the same features, but better and cooler and sexier in every way. Do you think I could spin that, bro? How would I do this? Make the components for free? On Patreon, I've already just, like, dropped these. I just said, hey, here's my night market macro. Hey, here's my new bodega. Hey, here's my vendit. I just threw all these out there, hoping that I would, like, get a little bit of credit before I drop the super pack. Separate the const into JSONs and have it load. Give the JSONs away, but then have the roller. Feels like it would be complicated from the user's side. It's like I have a bunch of non-functioning JSON files. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that privately. Right now, I should probably clean up my mess and get ready to pick up my wife from work. So, nice chill day, dude. I couldn't bring myself to play anything. I don't know why. But it was a nice chill day. I needed this. After a week of entertaining my friend from China and taking her all around the city and then taking her to Vancouver, BC and going all around that city and doing way more dishes than I'm used to doing every day. Granted, I did eat phenomenal Chinese food, like actual home-cooked Chinese food. It was awesome and worth. But I just wanted to sit on my ass and fuck around on the computer. Thanks for bearing with me as we bounced into some chess, some vegging on YouTube, a little coding, and yeah. Thank you very much. I will see you around. Back to work here pretty soon. Make mega da money. Capitalism got to mega da money. See you guys.